Hey, what's up? I'm Sam. This is my journal, and this is my week sheet. This looks ridiculous, I'm sure, but I can explain. I work in youth services at my local library full time, but then I also make records and go on tour with my band Hello Emerson. And both of these parts of my life are incredibly important to me. There are things that you need to do for work or for school and all that stuff. And then there are the things that you want to do, right? For your own fulfillment, for your creativity, for just joy. And we have to figure out how to have both of those while still doing all of the stuff that keeps us human and a functional person in like normal society. And this is one of the main problems that we have to solve as people. About 8 years ago, I started designing this thing called the Weeksheet. And I always keep it with me. It's like folded up. It's this very cute, odd piece of paper, and I print a new one out every week. It has a to-do list, it has a little mini calendar, and it has a habit tracker. So at the end of every week, I cut out the habit tracker, paste it in my journal, reflect on the week, update the week sheet, and then keep going. You ready? Let's do this. Part 1, this is the mind sweep. So for our mind sweep, our main question is, what is on your mind? A mind sweep is just dumping all of your to-do items that are floating around in your head onto paper. We don't need to capture everything on the first go-round. We're just going to start with the stuff that's most present in your mind. So I would recommend take your phone, put a 5-minute timer on it, and then put it out of reach. So set that timer on your phone, put it across the room, and do a mind sweep for about 5 minutes. Feel free to pause the video and then play the video again when you're ready. Great job on the first chunk. We're going to move on to the second chunk. And the main question for the second chunk is, how can we sort this out? For the week sheet, I have 4 categories that I put things into. Urgent and super important. Urgent, but not super important. Super important, but not urgent. And not urgent and not super important. So while I kind of explain things in the background here, feel free to start categorizing the things that you wrote down on your mind sweep. Are they 1, 2, 3, or 4? Now, with definitions of urgent or important, right, I can't tell you what's important to you. What's important to me might not be important to you. Things can change. Maybe one thing feels important one week. It doesn't feel as important the next week. That's all right. That's just how things go. You might even find out that something that was urgent that you didn't get done turns out not actually to be that urgent. We're just going with our gut right now. Now, after we label all of our stuff, we're going to flip our paper over and we're going to put them in each of those 4 categories. You can handwrite them or you could type them into the Google Doc template. Feel free to pause this video while you are categorizing things and then hit play again when you're ready to keep going. Great job. One last thing. Notice there's a weekly focus section at the top of that column. I like to think about my weeks like they're chapters of a book, and each chapter has its own title. I find it helpful sometimes to write something up there. I don't do it every week, so you can do it if you want, but you don't have to. Okay, amazing. 2 chunks down. Next chunk, we're going to look at this tiny little calendar. I think about it as like a 2-week look ahead. So just a little brief thing to take a peek and see how busy things might get so that you know how much time or how many things you might be able to accomplish while still remaining, a person. So let's be realistic about the time and the energy that we have to get things done. Each square represents about 2 hours in the day, but it's kind of wiggly on purpose. If I need to put in a specific time, if there's like an appointment or something, I will put that in there. But if it's just a task that I have to do on my own time, I generally won't put in the time of day that I have to do it. Okay, let's build our first little look ahead here. Step 1. Block off the time that you spend at school or at work. We can actually use a thick pen, or you could merge the cells in the Google Doc to kind of put that time together. Step 2, do you have any other obligations, clubs, appointments, stuff that you're doing with other people? Let's find those spots and let's put those in next. If it's helpful, you can mark the times in those blocks as well. That's generally what I do. Okay, now we're at step 3. You've got your school or your work hours blocked off. You've got some appointments, and now you've got some boxes that are empty. We're going to start to fill in some of those empty boxes with tasks from our list on the left. You may feel like you don't have time to get everything done in this week or this 2 weeks. That's okay. You probably don't, right? We're not going to finish all of our to-do list stuff ever, much less in the first week. But we want to make sure that we are listening to the priorities that we set on the left, the urgent and super important stuff, that should probably come first, and then finding the time and space and energy in our look ahead to plan to get that done. Don't overdo it. Start slow and steady. That's how we don't burn out. I aim to have 2 things each day that have nothing to do with my job. Does that always happen? No. Am I sometimes totally wiped out? Yes, absolutely. But I try. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to give myself a hard time about it. So now that you have your little look ahead with you, you can fold that up, take it with you, and if you get something done that day, you get to cross it off. Now, if you don't get it done and it's the end of the day, it's fine. Just circle it, highlight it, maybe move it to another time block that's later in the week. It's okay. You might even discover that something you thought was urgent is actually not that urgent in the first place. Take a break. Pause. You've done a really good job so far. Remember, this is less about completing every single thing on your to-do list and becoming this ultimate machine of productivity and efficiency, and it's more about having compassion for who you are now and making sure that you're making some slow, steady, consistent steps towards the person that you want to become. This is where the habit tracker comes into play. It's right above the 2-week look ahead. I know that for me, running in the morning, journaling, spending some time that is like unplugged, even if it's just a little bit every day, can make me happier, makes me more resilient, makes me better able to deal with the hard stuff. So I have those habits for me on that left column. And then on the top row, there are all the days of the week. If I run on a day, I will color in that box. If you notice there's some stuff that you can do that really feeds you, that gives you a sense of purpose, gives you some fulfillment, consider writing that down and tracking that to maybe make it a habit. At the beginning, I just want you to be aware of what you do every day. After you do that for a couple weeks, maybe you can start to ask questions. What if I did that 3 days a week? How would that feel? There's also a mood tracker at the bottom. Think about the previous day. How did it go? How do you feel about it? Were there any low points? You can give a number to it. You could write a little doodle in there. You could make it a color. You do whatever works for you. At the end of the week, I make sure to cut out my habit tracker and I actually paste that into my journal that I write in every day. Again, this is just about reflecting, having compassion for yourself in the moment, and walking slowly towards who you'd like to become. You don't have to journal, but the way that I do it is I set a timer in the morning for about 17 minutes, and I just write. There are like a million different ways to journal. One of my favorite is to imagine a friend asked me, hey, how are you doing really? And then do my best to answer that on the paper. We did it. We walked through it all. You can take that Google Doc template, change it to whatever you want it to be. You can say, hey, none of this is helpful for me, and I'm going to make something totally different. That's perfect. I am happy however you respond to this. I just wanted to share it because I know that it's been incredibly helpful for me to maintain a sense of control over my life while I am working on the pragmatic side over here and trying to make space and time and energy and resources for the creative side over there. I'm wishing you the best on your path. Go do awesome stuff.